Hey, friends. Welcome back to the Point of a Books podcast. My name is LaShawn, and I am your host. And it is the end of March and the end of quarter two, if that's something you follow. And how does this seem like it's the longest year, and yet time is passing us by so quickly? I mean, my son has spring break next week, and he reminded me that after that, school is basically kind of sort of over because all they do is some type of test prep or testing for the rest of the year, which is really, really sad. Really, really sad because I'm like, y'all don't get out of school to the end of May. So that means from mid April until the end of school, basically, it's standardized test season, which his year is a little better because the 11th graders, he only has to take an AP from the classes he's taken. He only has to take an AP history test and he's in culinary school at his school, so he has to take like some big culinary test, but still there's more testing even after that. So I'm like, dang, what a way to just end school. They don't learn nothing else. But no, no, that also means that I am getting ready for prime reading season. I pre-ordered maybe 6 books for the rest of the year last week, and most of them come out late spring to early fall. And I am really excited to get to reading them. Some of them I have been waiting for a while. Just excited. So, since it's the last Tuesday of March, let's go ahead and talk about what I read in March and the books that I am looking forward to in April. I had a really, 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 really good reading month, all things considered. As of Monday the 30th, which is the day I'm recording this, I read 12 books. Most of them random Kindle Unlimited romances, if I'm being honest. 8 of those books were newly released, and the newly released ones were like in the last 30 days. I also read an advanced reader copy of Tia Williams' new book, Misconnections, but I am going to save my review for that until closer to the release date in June, and it will go on my summer reading list, summer reading guide. But I will say go ahead and pre order it because it's really good. It's really good. So, anyway, I talked already about one of the books that I'm included, but I'm going to include it again because I want to make sure it's on your radar. Okay? Okay? But it's 5. Let me see. I'm going to do 5 of the books that I read in no particular order. First book that I want to talk about, of course, is Ken by Tayari Jones. I love this book from the very first chapter. This is the story of 2 motherless girls who grow into 2 motherless young women and the choices that they make because of it. Starting in Honeysuckle, Louisiana, our story then splits, alternating between Atlanta, where Vernice goes to college to find security and the family she never had, while Annie goes to Memphis to find the mother that abandoned her. This is a story about sisterhood, found family, sexuality, chosen family, race, and grief. Almost every character in this book is shaped by their mother in some profound way that affects their lives. When I think of good writing, I think of books like this. Writers like Yari Jones. This was thought provoking, it was entertaining, it was heartbreaking, it was realistic, it was beautifully written. And so many more things that I just cannot put into words right now. I have debated the ending with various friends, and we all have different thoughts and opinions. And I love that for all of us. I gave this book 5 stars and highly recommend you go pick it up. The next book on my list was Across the Vanishing Sky by Catherine Cowles. Let me tell you what it was about. Braden Winslow returns to Starlight Grove, the town tied to her best friend's mysterious disappearance, determined to uncover the truth while raising her young son. There, she crosses paths with her guarded neighbor Dex Archer, a man haunted by his family's dark past. As Bray digs deeper, danger closes in and Dex becomes her unexpected protector. Their growing connection is tested by secrets, threats, and the past neither of them can escape. With someone willing to silence her for good, Bray must trust Dex, even if it means he risks becoming the man he tried to leave behind. I'm just going to go ahead and say I love Catherine Cowles. I have read all of her books, and my friend and I jokingly refer to her books as romance trauma because there is always someone getting stabbed, shot, kidnapped, hurt. and there is always a mystery to solve. And I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. It's like catnip. This one was the first in a new series. The first books in a series usually have to introduce you to all of the new characters that are going to follow in the books, etc. So while I enjoyed that, and this was good with a great twist at the end, I know the books after this one will get better. As usual, I've already decided which brother's story I want the most. And of course, that is the one that will be last and won't come out until sometime next year. But anyway, I enjoyed the mystery, the banter, the sexy times, and some cameos by characters from some of the other series. I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5. The next book that I want to talk about is Hunt the Villain by Rena Kent. This is a dark male college mafia romance. It's a mouthful. Let's tell you what it's about. Vaughn never expected to be drawn to Yulian Dmitriev, a man who embodied everything he despised: recklessness, violence, and dangerously unpredictable. Forced together as heirs to rival mafia empires, their connection begins with deep resentment. But as he begins to see beyond Yulian's chaos, something forbidden takes hold. When tragedy pulls them back into their separate worlds, distance should end it. Instead, it only deepens the pull between them. In a world where their love is forbidden, Yulian pushes every boundary, risking everything: their lives, their loyalty, and their hearts. Now, Rick Kent wrote one of my favorite male romances, God of Fury, with one of the most chaotic, crazy male characters I've ever read, but I love him. I was not interested in reading anything else from that series. Most of them were, she usually writes male female romances, but that was an exception with those two characters. Anyway, this new series seems to be all male male. The first one, I will admit, wasn't my thing. A little too dark for me. This one did a good job of teetering on the edge of too dark. Like it wanted to go there, but never quite made it. Like it was like on the edge though. And I was okay with that. Despite the dark overtones, the love story underneath was exactly what I'm looking for these days in my romance novels. Lots of yearning and pining, even though here it was disguised with a lot of violence and a lot of get back. Yeah, and a lot of sex. But hey, I enjoyed the read. Knowing me, I won't read the next book in the series because dark mafia really isn't my thing. I just made an exception for this one because she did a great promo for it on Instagram and it had me intrigued. I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5 also. The next book that I want to talk about is The Night We Met by Abby Jimenez. Abby is an auto-buy author for me, but before I get ahead of myself, let me go ahead and tell you what it's about. In everyone's life, there's a split-second decision that can change everything. For Larissa, it came when choosing who to ride home with after a concert. That night, she had no idea she'd met the perfect man. She and Chris are great friends, co-parenting a slightly unhinged rescue Yorkie and sharing their favorite books and judging bread. Pumpernickel for the win. For the first time, amid all her side hustles to scrape by, things finally feel easy. But she didn't choose Chris to drive her home all those months ago. She went with his best friend, and he became her boyfriend. All Chris wants is for Larissa to be happy. Standing by on the sidelines is slowly killing him, but making a move would destroy someone else. How can something that feels so right be absolutely impossible? So Abby Jimenez, like I said, is one of my favorite authors and I have read all of her books and novellas, and I love that all the characters in her book tend to reappear or are interconnected in some type of way. This one was connected to her last book, Say You'll Remember Me, and my favorite of hers, Yours Truly. She always drops the previous characters like little Easter eggs. And if you go through the books, eventually you're going to see one of them characters. I feel like the next book is going to be about someone we met in this one because frankly, I need his redemption arc and I can see underneath, like, I love that she didn't make him a villain necessarily. He just needs some help. And that's all I'm going to say, not to spoil it. Anyway, I love this. Remember how last week I was talking about the yearning? We got it here, friends, in fades. And it wasn't until I got to the end of the book that I realized that there was not one open door sex scene in the entire book. And I was still ooey gooey and gave this a great rating. Me, the queen of if it doesn't have sex, I will knock off a star or stop reading and be disgusted. This is highly unusual for her because her books usually have about what I'll say is 1.5 sex scenes. Nothing graphic, never, but here and there we get ready to, but or something. Like we usually get one good scene, but here it's like they're getting ready to do it or they just had it, but it's a fade to black type situation. And I never thought I'd say this, but that actually worked for this book because by the time they get there, you are so invested and thrilled that they just finally kissed that there is no way you can be disappointed with anything because it was like the entire book was about the yearning and it was just amazing. It was so good. Anyway, I had my doubts on how this one was going to be resolved because the best friend's girl, I was like, it's a guy code. I don't know how that's going to work out. But it was beautifully done. And now we wait for the next book or the one after that because sooner or later we will get to the best friend's story. I mean, she has to. I really need to know what happens to him later. Anyway, so I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars, obviously. It was one of my favorites I read this month. The last book that I'm going to talk about that I read in March was Song of Solomon by Toni Morrison. This was our Pouring Over Books book club pick for March, and it is my favorite book of hers. Let me tell you what it's about. Milkman Dad was born shortly after a neighborhood eccentric hurled himself off of a rooftop in a vain attempt at flight. For the rest of his life, he too will be trying to fly. As Morrison follows Milkman from his Rust Belt city to the place of his family's origins, she introduces an entire cast of drivers and seers, liars and assassins, the inhabitants of a fully realized Black world. I have that was from the publisher's blurb, by the way, because I couldn't figure out a way to explain this book without spoiling it. Anyway, I have read this book many, many times, but not since my 30s or early 40s, I think was the last time I read it. This time I listened to the audiobook, which Toni Morrison reads, and it was glorious. Like it gave me a different point of view almost of a familiar book. There was something about the author herself reading the book in the cadence and the emphasis on certain words that gave it new life for me. At least because there were certain parts of the book that I remember from before reading them, and I'm like, it's a sloth, or it felt like it didn't feel the same. But then when she read it, I got it the way she meant it to be written. And I don't know how else to explain that. It remains my favorite book of hers after this reading, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Okay. Now let's talk about what books I am looking forward to in April. There are quite a few, but I'm only going to give you a few here. On April 2nd, Happy Ending by Chloe Leese comes out. It's romance. I am always ready for a good Chloe Leese book. I know that I will get a real story with two very real characters who overcome their issues and fall in love. My perfect type of romance. Our story starts 2 years ago when their exes got together immediately following their divorces. Thea and Alex found themselves spinning a spite-fueled story about being old friends and first loves, just to get out of being embarrassed. So 2 years later, what began as a joke has grown into a real friendship. But just friendship, despite what friends and families think. But when their exes invite them on a 2-week family vacation, beach vacation, with dog and daughter included, Alex and Thea start to wonder if this story they have spun has gotten away from them and that if it could truly end in a happy ending. This was the perfect slow burn romance that was sweet and loyal and frankly perfect. You will love it. I think I gave it 4 stars. Yeah, I gave it 4 stars. Let me see. Yep. The next book that I want to talk about is Cherry Baby by Rainbow Rowell that comes out on 4/14. Let me tell you what it's about. Cherry's husband, Tom, is off in Hollywood turning his hit webcomic into a movie and quietly ending their marriage. Worse, the character based on Cherry, Baby, is a humiliating caricature that makes her recognizable to strangers. While Tom gains fame, Cherry is left behind in Omaha, stuck in the life they built and unsure who she is without him. One night, she steps out to reclaim a piece of herself and reconnects with Russ, someone who knew her before the marriage and who sees her for who she truly, really is. Can't wait to read that one. Number 3 is the third book that I want to talk about that's coming out in April that I am looking forward to is Leave Your Mess at Home by Tolani Akinola, which is also out on 414. Solange returns home to Chicago in secret after a decade away, newly single and reeling from public disgrace. But her siblings are facing their own struggles, unrequited love, identity, and self worth, and the pressures of marriage and fatherhood. When they reunite at table their Nigerian parents' Thanksgiving table, long buried tensions and secrets rise to the surface. In the aftermath, each sibling must confront the past and decide what truly matters family, identity, and the courage to become who they want to be. The next book that is coming out in April that I am ready to read is Would I Lie to You by Nicole Blades. Lucille Lou Barlow seems like the perfect wife, mom, and business owner. But she's secretly a seasoned cat burglar trying to leave her criminal past behind. When her husband's new biotech job moves them to an eerie, picture perfect town, Lou hopes is her chance at a clean break. Instead, she discovers the move was orchestrated by her crime syndicate, and her final job is her most dangerous yet, stealing a classified genetic code created by her own husband. Now, Lou must choose between the life she's built and the secrets that could destroy it. I'm really interested in that one too. And stay tuned for more on that book later in April. I will update you when it happens. Okay, so let's quickly go over a few current things that are going on in my life. Let's talk about first what I am currently loving. And I am currently loving The Pit on HBO. I love this show, guys. It really is the grandchild of the show ER, back in the day with George Clooney, especially with Noah Wiley in it. If you have never seen it, each episode is 1 hour in a 12-hour shift. I can tell you from experience working in the ER that it's realistic. It's so realistic that sometimes it's just like the real ER where like there's really nothing happening until suddenly bam. And then for us, that's usually the last 5 to 10 minutes of the episode. This week is hour 12, but a little birdie told me that there are 15 episodes, which makes sense because they say nobody is leaving at exactly 7 p.m. because of what's been going on in this shift. So there are too many loose ends to tie it up. So I can totally see that. Anyway, I only finished one of the books that I was reading the last time we talked, I think. I got distracted. I am trying not to start anything new at this time, but friends, I am currently at like 50% through Mayhem and the Mortal, I think. And I'm recording this on Monday, March 30th. So I still have Tuesday. So I think I may be done with it by the time you listen. So it will be included in my March reads and you will get a review next week, hopefully, if I don't get distracted again. Anyway, and I will finish all the books that I've started. But I did start a new one, unfortunately. I started Lake Effect by Cynthia Sweeney. I just wanted to glance at the first chapter, but hold on, let me pull it up. I just wanted to glance at the first chapter, but in it, a divorced friend is buying, this takes place in the 1970s. So a divorced friend is buying the joy of sex for all of her friends. Like she's a divorced one, all her friends are still married, but she's buying them all the joy of sex. And there is a line when she's buying it in a bookstore and she's talking to the young girl who she's buying the books from, who is like totally embarrassed. But she says, honey, Beth said as Dana finished ringing up the books and slipping the last one into the shopping bag, visibly relieved. Let me give you some advice. Don't marry anyone who isn't as concerned with your orgasm as they are with theirs. And I was like, oh, I have to read this now. So let me tell you what it's about. It is 1977, and an air of restlessness has settled on the residents of Cambridge Road in Rochester, New York, a place long fueled by the booming fortunes of Kodak and Xerox, and for some, the mores of the Catholic Church. When Nina Larkin is given a copy of The Joy of Sex by her newly divorced friend, she can no longer dismiss the nearly non existent intimacy of her marriage. Just as her oldest child, Clara, is falling in love for the first time, Nina finds herself longing for the forbidden, a midlife awakening. An intoxicating fling with a prominent neighbor brings Nina a freedom she never thought possible, but also risks the reputations of both families and unravels Clara's world just as she stands on the threshold of adulthood. Years later, Clara, now a successful food stylist in New York City, has never been able to move past the long ago scandal. Drawn back home by the of a family wedding and wrestling with her own demons, she makes a pivotal decision that turns her life upside down. I'm sorry, I read that one line and I was like, oh, I've got to read this now. Anyway, I am currently listening to House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. I'm the first book in the Crescent City series. Mainly, I'm listening to it when I have nothing else to read, when I'm bored, or just want something comforting, and when I'm doing something that I don't want to have to pay attention a lot to. I'm about 37% in, but I'm enjoying falling back into the story and the characters and catching all the little Easter eggs and details that one does when they are rereading a book, especially one as dense as this one with so many details that carry on for the rest of the series and evidently other series. Physical book. I have Tar Baby by Toni Morrison, which is our fourth book in the Pouring Over Books book club. This is the book that we are reading in April. I realized that I can't remember this book. I know I've read it, but I literally don't remember what it's about, or rather, only in general terms. No, I'm not even gonna say general terms. I truly, I'm like a blank when it comes to this one. So let me tell you what it's about. Jadine Childs is a Black fashion model with a white patron, a white boyfriend, and a coat made out of 90 perfect sealskins. Sun is a Black fugitive who embodies everything she loathes and desires. As Morrison follows their affair, which plays out from the Caribbean to Manhattan and to the Deep South, she charts the nuances of obligation and betrayal between Blacks and whites, masters and servants, and men and women. So, on the one hand, I want to say it's a love story, but on the other hand, it's Toni Morrison. So, it's never that simple, and I'm sure she's going to traumatize me. But this is her fourth novel, and I told a friend earlier today that this is the one that leads us down the convoluted path of Beloved, which we are reading in May, which I guess is appropriate for Mother's Day, kind of, sort of. If you know, you know. Anyway, join us in April. Join us in April and read with us. I'll leave the link in the show notes. But okay, friends, that is all I have for you today. As always, if you enjoyed listening, I'd love it if you would follow me on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. And if you have a minute, please think about leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or sharing the podcast on social media. It helps us to grow and to find other bookish friends. Okay. And if you would like to connect with me or you have any questions or concerns, you can email me at pouringoverbookspod@gmail.com. You can also find me over on my personal Instagram page and TikTok, which are both at LaShawn Wiltz, LaShawnWiltz, as in zebra. Thanks again for listening. I will talk to you later, friend. Bye bye.